Be in the moment. Jesus transforms you. And this next one is just a couple pages over in Luke chapter 7. And this is what we see. The first one, he went to the outsider's house. This one, Jesus goes to the religious leader's house, the Pharisee's house. And it says this in verse 36 of Luke 7. One of the Pharisees asked Jesus to eat with him. He went to the Pharisee's house. He's reclining at the table again. I don't know how they ate back then. Always laid out, just kind of. And then he said, and behold, a woman of the city who was a sinner. I just want you to know that's not just how we're all in that condition until we find Jesus. And that's what Jesus is wanting to do in this moment. When she learned that he was reclining at the table in the Pharisee's house, she brought an alabaster flask of ointment. And standing behind him at his feet, weeping, she began to wet his feet with her tears and wiped them with her hair of her head and kissed his feet and anointed them with ointment. Do you see what she's doing in this moment? She's worshiping. And the Pharisees, they recognized Jesus was the invited guest. She was the uninvited guest. Have you ever been to a party where someone shows up uninvited, unexpected, unknown? She wasn't just the outsider, she was excluded. It was like, she's not even supposed to be here. Why is she at the table? And the Pharisees begin to have a little heart moment. Now, when the Pharisee who invited him saw this, he said to himself, meaning in his heart, if this man were a prophet, he would have known who and what sort of woman this is who is touching him, for she's a sinner. Do you see the moment? She is there pursuing and worshiping and loving, and she sought Jesus out. Yet this man who has all the credentials, he has all the things that you're supposed to have. He has all the knowledge. He has all the head part. He has no compassion. He doesn't see her as valuable. He sees her as someone that's broken that needs to be fixed. He sees her as someone who's hurting that needs to be healed. But when you see people as valuable, you'll begin to serve them. He saw them Simon saw her as an inconvenience. See, you're crashing the party. You're messing up the moment. And Jesus is like, no, this is the moment. And Jesus goes from the invited guest to the host. Right here in this transaction, what happens is Jesus goes from, hey man, I'm the guest of Simon's house, to say, man, I've got something to teach. So he looks at Simon and says, hey, I have something I want to say to you. And he's like, okay, say it. He goes, there's this moneylender. And there's two people that owe him money. One owes a large sum of money. It's like 500 denarii. Another owes 5 denarii. And he goes, the moneylender forgives both. Simon, who do you think is more grateful? Who do you think loves more? And obviously here in Alamance, we are like, dude, the one who was forgiven a lot. If I was forgiven more money, I'd love more too. And he's like, obviously, you judged correctly. And then Jesus, he was talking to Simon, but I want you to see this. Then he looks at the woman in verse 44. Turning toward the woman, he said to Simon, do you see this woman? Like, are you in the moment? Are you present here? Are you capturing what is happening with what she's done? I entered your house and you gave me no water for my feet. But she has wet my feet with her tears and wiped them with her hair. You gave me no kiss, but from the time I came in, she's not ceased to kiss my feet. You did not anoint my head with oil, but she's anointed my feet with ointment. He's like, Simon, are you in the moment? Are you capturing? And this is what's so powerful. Jesus is saying, if you're in the moment, transformation can take place. And he wasn't just trying to transform this woman. He was trying to transform Simon's heart to go from a heart of just knowing about God, but being a heart that knew how to seek and save the lost, that knew how to say, man, I'm a hospital. I'm ready to welcome the broken. I'm ready to welcome those who are hurting because they have value and I want to add value to them. And what occurs next is he looks back at the woman. He says, therefore, I tell you, her sins, which are many, so are mine, are forgiven. For she loved much, but he who is forgiven little loves little. And he said to her, your sins are forgiven. This is what you got to capture. So when you're in the moment with Jesus, you begin to recognize the need we have for his grace, the need we have for his forgiveness, the need we have for who he is. And all of us need that. I need that grace. I need that. And hospitality is not about perfection. Oh, no, it's not. It's about presence. It's about being in the presence of God. It's about entering in and being and sitting with people. If you invite someone to your table, it's simply about being with them. It's powerful what occurs when you can be intentionally present with people. That picture I showed you earlier of my family, one of my favorite meals we had around that table is we took all of our cell phones and we took them face down and stacked them up like this, right? They're all in the middle of the table. And whoever took their phone back first lost. I can't remember what we lost, but we lost something. I can't remember if you had the bill or what it was. But what I loved about that is it forced us to be present. This summer, are you creating space for God's grace in your family? Are you creating space in the margin of life around the barbecue? You're not just flipping burgers, but are you giving space and margin for God to show up, transform hearts? Why I love Camp EXP so much is we do this thing at dinner time, and they go up on the mountaintop. They have no phones. They have no distractions. They're meeting with God. They're experiencing Him real. And we do this thing called a high-low buffalo. The high of the day, the low of the day, the buffalo. We're just being intentional with time. It's powerful what you do when you're present with people. It makes an impact. So the first meal we see is the outsider being welcomed in. We're all welcome to the table. The second meal we captured right there is we begin to understand that it's being present in the moment. When you're in the moment, Jesus begins to transform you. The third one is not the outsider, not the Pharisee. He's going with his disciples. He's going with his disciples. And I love this thought that when you bring what you have, Jesus empowers you. When you bring what you have, Jesus empowers you. And to set the stage, the 12 disciples had just been sent out. They had been sent out to go teach. They've been sent out to go pray for people. They've been sent out to go do miracles. They've been traveling and doing all this stuff. And where we pick the story up in Luke chapter 9, it's almost like a huddle. It's almost like, hey, they were coming back to see Jesus and report on how it went. Hey, man, you taught us to pray like this. You taught us to do this. This worked. Man, I got frustrated here, So they all came back to Jesus. Being who they were, what happened now is a crowd began to gather around them. They were weary. They were tired. They were frustrated. But here we are in Luke chapter 9, verse 12. Now the day began to wear away, meaning it was getting late in the day. And the 12 came and said to him, send the crowd away to go into the surrounding villages and countryside to find lodging and get provisions. For we're here in a desolate place. They're like, hey, Jesus, I know we've done incredible things, but look, we're tired. We got all these people here. We can't take care of them. We need you to send them away. If you tell them to go to the countryside, if you tell them to go over here, then what's going to happen is they'll be taken care of. They'll get rest. They'll get food because we're in a desolate place. It's dry. I'm wore out. It's like the 99-degree heat, and it's arid, and I'm hot, and I'm frustrated. But look at Jesus' response. But he said to them, you give them something to eat. Jesus, we just told you. Did you not, are you not comprehending? They said, we have no more than 5 loaves and 2 fish unless we are to go and buy food for all these people. Jesus says, you give them something to eat. I've been like, Jesus, you told us you're the bread of life, There's a lot of people here. All we've got is a Lunchable and a snack pack. How are we going to take care of all these people? But Jesus is what he's saying is he's trying to flip it. They were so focused on what they did not have. All they said is, hey, we don't have enough for everyone. We don't have a big enough table. We don't have enough food. And maybe even today you're like, I am wore out. I was one of those 248 people. And I've made tie-dye shirts and I've done this and I've done this. And you're like, hey, let's send them away. And no, Jesus is wanting you to reset your focus and say, no. See, hospitality is not about just doing everything right. It's intentional and focused kindness. Jesus saw an opportunity. He said, man, we've got people here. We've got people that we can feed. We've got people that we can care for. We got people we can serve and add value to. We have all these people we can host. And the disciples were looking at it through the lens of, we don't have enough. Jesus was thinking, man, if you give it to me, it'll be more than enough. When you give God what you have, it becomes more than enough. So here's what happens. Verse 14, for there were about 5,000 men, and he said to the disciples, have them all sit down in groups of 50. And they did so and had them all sit down. And taking the 5 loaves and the 2 fish, he looked up to heaven and he said a blessing over them. Then he broke the loaves and he Do you see this? He gave them to the disciples. I love it. He said, you give them something to eat. If you give me what you have, then I'll take it, I'll multiply it, and give it back into your hands. And when it's put into your hand, then you begin to be the one. Man, we have a God who invites us into the process of feeding other people. He invites us into the process of being part of the ministry of reconciliation. He invites us into the process, and you're looking at me and you're saying, John Mark, you're asking me to invite people to a table. I live in a dorm room. How am I going to invite someone to the table? I'm an empty nester. My table has become empty. How do I get it full again? Give God what you have. College student, maybe you begin to gather at the dining hall and shoot out a text. I have a buddy he's in his early 20s, and he just said, man, I just started to have, he goes, how do I do a small group? And he goes, I got 12 guys coming over next week. I said, man, you did the hard part. You got people coming. And I said, just open up. Just begin to talk. Begin to share. If you begin to give God what you have, God will end up giving you more than enough. One of the things we do in the Hamilton house, I was off on an anniversary trip with my wife celebrating 15 years, and my dad texted me, and he said, man, you didn't tell me about Friday. I was like, Friday? What are you talking about? He goes, the girls had me up in the clubhouse on Friday doing Freeze Pop Friday. And in our house, we do this thing called Freezy Pop Friday. And we have a Freezy Pop or a Luigi's Icy, my favorite. And we talk about how you went mad that week. We talk about, hey, how did you make a difference? What did this look like? I'm not showing you this so that you become like John Mark. That's not the hope. That's not the prayer. It may be muffins with mom. It may be donuts with dad. It may be apples with Amy. I don't know. It's got to rhyme, though. It's just part of it. What I want you to catch is what Jesus was doing with his disciples. He took what they had, and it became more than enough. Verse 17 is one of my favorites because it wraps up this way, this story. It says, and they all ate, talking about the 5,000, every single one of them. They ate. They were satisfied. And what was left over was picked up, 12 baskets of broken pieces. This is a John Mark interpretation. I think it was just Jesus giving a little gentle reminder to the disciples. Hey, John, you didn't think we had enough? Here's a whole basket for you to know that we have more than enough. Hey, Peter, I told you to feed my lambs, feed my sheep, man. Here's a whole basket. Hey, Thomas, you never believed it was going to happen anyway. Here's a whole basket. When you give God what you have, it becomes more than enough. How does he do it? I have no idea. That's why we give it to him. How he makes you have more energy, how he gives you more space in the table, how he gives you the opportunity. But what I do know is true is when you give God what you have, and you may be weary today, you may be tired today, you may be sitting here and like, man, I am in a desolate place. I'm in a dry place of my faith. Give God what you have. Give the moments you do have. You may be going through a different marriage situation right now, and you have limited time with your kids, and you're like, I don't have every night. I'm like, give God what you have. What if you give him what you have, let him bless it, and let him begin to speak to it?